Sam, welcome to the Digimedia Pros Expo coverage here at Cine Gear 2016.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
And I'm glad to be here with you, especially because I get to sit down after 4 hours of running around. So how do you like the show so far?
To be honest, I haven't really gotten to see much of it because I'm trapped at this booth.
And this booth is your booth, which is what?
We are LumaForge, and our product is the Share Station, which is shared storage that is designed from the ground up for content creators and filmmakers.
All right, explain exactly what that means. We're talking about the ability for multiple editors to share the files and the editing?
Yeah, so it's designed, basically shared storage is, instead of doing sneakernet where everybody has a drive and you're trying to constantly figure out where your media is and which drive, when you're working in a team with a group of people, whether you have a group of editors who are all working on a project, or you're working, you have an editor, a sound person, a colorist, or some of these things, if you're working in a team, at a certain point, you're going to want everyone to have access to the same media at the same time.
Right.
And so our product allows you to do that in an affordable way, and depending on what you want to do, we have a solution that is basically built for speed, performance, and ease of use, which is which are basically I think the three things that most independent filmmakers really want. Is they don't want to be handicapped performance-wise, and they want the technology to be approachable enough to actually just get some work done and to tell their story.
So let's see, we can share by grabbing a drive and passing that around, which is not very efficient. We can share by having a NAS. So would this be considered a NAS?
This would be considered a NAS. It's Ethernet-based protocol. Unlike most NAS-based systems, this one is optimized for performance for video. So this can do 4K, VR, on-set, and handle really, really demanding performance requirements. Right now I've got 16 streams of 4K playing back in Final Cut 10 right here, and I can do this across multiple users. And but it is technically NAS. It's not a SAN, which is a fiber-based system. This is NAS, so you're going to connect with Ethernet cables, although you can integrate fiber, but it's going to go through an Ethernet protocol. I don't know how deep you want me to go on the tech side.
No, that's deep enough for now. We can get into it more in other interviews. But so does the software need to support the ability to do this? For example, Adobe Premiere Pro, does it support the ability to use shared?
We are fully compatible with Final Cut 10. In fact, we're the only NAS that's optimized for Final Cut 10. We run Premiere, Resolve. You can even do Avid bin locking from our Share Station with a third-party application. So no matter what you're editing, we test in our lab and build our product so that it's going to be immediately compatible for whatever your workflow is.
So all the media would be centrally located, basically, and your projects would be centrally located, and then people work off of that through your software?
Exactly. So everyone's working from the same drive in their Finder, and it's all connected from one station. And so you don't need to constantly reconnect and do all of these different things. Essentially, what you're doing is, it's just a far more streamlined way of working.
Sure. And there's locking capability, so if I'm working on a sequence, you can't be working on that sequence.
So in Avid, yes, it depends on the application.
I see.
What you're going to do, though, there's certain workflow things that you're going to want to do, and it's different for every application.
Right.
But the best thing to do is to keep your media separate from your projects. If you're in a Final Cut 10 workflow, for instance, you're going to keep your media separate, and you're going to duplicate these projects or libraries for each editor and give them their own project that's going to reference the media, unless you're working in Avid, at which point you can use a third-party product called Mimic, M-I-M-I-Q, which is going to give you the Avid bin locking functionality that you would typically have in a shared environment. So a lot of it's application specific, but it's going to work within the same criteria that application's infrastructure allows for.
Right. So you have to check your app to see how
And there's different workflows, and that's part of what we do too. We're filmmakers first, which means we know the products, the problems you may experience,
Right.
and we can basically tell you what the best practices are.
Right. And what's the cost for something like this for filmmakers to implement?
So our jellyfish starts from $7,500, and you can immediately start working with 4K media. There's no limits in terms of what you can do. You will get the same performance out of a given client or user, and it's just a question of how many users you have attached and how much total media that you need. So it's scalable for large production facilities and broadcasters, but it's also, we start for the small work group. So if you have a Pegasus, for instance, this is basically a shared Pegasus.
Okay. So that was the box right there that people would get, and
Yeah.
that's where all the media would be stored.
Exactly.
And then everybody hooks up to that.
Yep.
Basically, and there's I'm assuming an admin control panel where you can manage everything.
We have an extremely simple, user-friendly application where you can connect a Mac for the first time to our share station with as few as 3 clicks and no typing.
And will it work with Windows as well?
Yeah, it's Mac, Windows, and Linux compatible.
I see.
So it's compatible with everything, but we've designed for the Mac. We have the Mac-based application,
Right.
which is extremely easy to use, and everything else is basically as you would connect to a server normally, and you're going to get the same level of performance.
Right.
But our user app is on the Mac because we found that Mac users have different requirements than a lot of Windows and Linux users.
Sure, definitely. All right, Sam, thank you for all the info. If people want to find out more, where do they go?
Go to LumaForge.com.